Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode coming to you from the top of Pico Island, one of those Portuguese islands also known as the Açores. So today I want to talk about a new project that's been ruffling some feathers, maybe, called Radix. And what I really want to talk about is how this project was formed and the issues that come to light with that. Also, if I have time, I will be talking about scalability solutions like sharding and gossip protocol. You might recognize that one from IOTA. So let's get into it. If you enjoyed this, if you want to learn more, leave a comment, leave a like, share this one with other people, and let's get into it. So, Radix. This one got my attention by one clickbaity article. I will admit I got clickbaited, talking about how this project would make blockchains and therefore Bitcoin obsolete. It was created by a man who named Dan Hughes, and he had learned about Bitcoin in 2011. A year later, he read the white paper, and pretty much, according to this article, he very quickly was he understood the limitations of Bitcoin and a blockchain, specifically with it being able to scale, the exponential growth of users and their data, and how that blockchain would bloat. So Dan Hughes, he's not a noob by any means. He's done a lot of developing for games. He's done a lot of work for NFC technology, that is near field communications, and he has a lot of experience with working with mobile companies and things like this. So he's not exactly a nobody in this space, but I'm not sure what his experience with cryptography specifically is. And when you're going to write your own code, which is what he did for his project Radix, is he pretty much locked himself up for 6 years and wrote the code that is now Radix and his technology called Tempo. So it's really interesting because any cryptographer will probably tell you don't write your own code. If you do, don't publish it for open source for other people to use, just because it is generally untested and there are a lot of unknown unknowns within that. So for those of you who might be curious to know why it's a bad idea to write your own code brand spanking new, I want to point you in the direction of a man named Bruce Schneier. I believe that's how you say his name. He is a world-renowned cryptographer, security expert, and he's got some great quotes about how not, or why not, to write your own code, and a lot of logical arguments about that. So check out Bruce Schneier. So Bitcoin, let's throw it back to Bitcoin for a second. Bitcoin was created out of generations of cypherpunks, of people who are experts in cryptography, building their code, testing it, the security of it, and after many failed attempts, there became Bitcoin. And with cryptography and encryption, with cryptocurrencies, that is at the very core of their security. That's what Bitcoin gives it its security. That's why so many projects have taken the code from Bitcoin and built upon it. That is this whole idea of open source, of building on what other people have created. So Dan Hughes, again, I will put a link down to the article that I read, but it said something like there's not one single line of code in Radix that has come from Bitcoin. It is all brand spanking new, not to mention the fact that it was written by one man. Only one set of eyes going over this code, and not to mention the fact that he could have probably benefited from a lot of peer review, a lot of other different perspectives and concerns from other people, and discovering the attack vectors of Radix. I'm not trying to hate on Radix or Dan Hughes by any means, but I think that those are some important things to pay attention to when you're looking at projects that are new, that are claiming to be disruptors of Bitcoin or blockchain specifically. If they're going to claim to make blockchain irrelevant in the coming years, you better pay attention to the foundation of that project. And so this one, in my opinion, could be weaker for that. But it does have the benefit of seeing the limitations that Bitcoin and blockchains have in regards to scalability, and in that way they can design the platform, the foundation of that platform, to be more able to scale. So there's an aspect to Radix that I will be going more in depth in a bit in this video, and that is sharding, and also using gossip protocol for the different nodes to communicate, how that enables a faster transactions, cheaper transactions, things like this. So Radix at least was able to be designed in a way to have that at its core, rather than what we're seeing with, say, Ethereum. I know Vitalik has been wanting, or has at least been interested in, using things like sharding to achieve their scalability, but for them to do so, they would have to change a lot of their core aspects of Ethereum. So Radix does have that going for it, where it has kind of a fresh start, and it can see the limitations from its predecessors. So before I bore you too much, let's learn about sharding and gossip protocols. So as promised, here is a perhaps oversimplified version of what sharding is. Think of a library. So the library is the blockchain. The books are the blocks. The librarians are the nodes, and the patrons, the people who are checking in and returning the books, are the users of the network. Now keep in mind that we are applying this analogy to something like decentralized ledger technology, DLT. So a large library, if it were all, like, say, one blockchain, it would be a large building with one single counter, many librarians needing each to record the transactions of the books coming and going. That would, as more people come and more people use more transactions, they check out more books, that would exponentially slow down that whole process for the users. And we are pretty much seeing that with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and as other blockchains grow and more users adopt them, become their user base, they will experience that scalability issue as well. So sharding, when applied to the library analogy, is, imagine a large library, but instead of being held in one building, is held in many different smaller buildings, and each building has its own respective librarian, which is responsible for only recording the comings and goings of that particular building, not the entire, say, corporation of buildings. Okay, so keep in mind again that we are applying this analogy to a decentralized network, a decentralized ledger technology. And with Bitcoin, and the strength of that is that each node has a copy of the entire ledger. So each one is verifiable, each one has the same history. With sharding, each node would be only responsible for their little fraction of the ledger. So for example, with Radix, I believe they were saying that with sharding, it could be broken up, the blockchain ledger could be broken up into 18 trillion or quintillion pieces, tiny little pieces. So theoretically that is like each piece would be represented by a node. So there's a lot of issues, especially concerning the communication between the nodes and how each one gets to recall information of the history. And obviously that is when a centralized authority would be beneficial, because it would make things certainly a lot more easy and efficient to communicate between the nodes. But again, decentralized, right? So these are the issues that I'm sure scaling and getting applied to a decentralized technology, these are the issues that they are seeing. So that brings me to the gossip protocol. That is how IOTA, at least in particular, I know for sure, uses the gossip protocol to communicate, for the different nodes to communicate with each other. Once they receive information, they share it with the other nodes that they are connected with. So again, if you want to explore, if you're curious how this technology can be applied, look at IOTA, look at Nano, and look at Byteball. So it certainly seems that sharding could be a very good solution for the problems that blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum are experiencing, and I'm sure that's why it caught the attention of people like Vitalik Buterin and many devs at Ethereum. But it is yet to be seen what kind of issues will be addressed or will be seen with sharding if it is implemented. So Radix could be an interesting one. Also IOTA, I know there's been a lot of drama, a lot of FUD about IOTA. I'm sure some of it is political, whatever, but if you're interested, go ahead and take a look at IOTA, Nano, Byteball, Radix, And of course, I will be providing a lot more in-depth information specifically about sharding and gossip protocols down below, so you guys can feel free to read and learn more in depth about those concepts. I just wanted to give you a very brief overview so you can get a better understanding of generally how this works.